Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my spring wrap up. I will have my spring TBR linked up in the cards and down in the description box. But every single month I like to make a TBR, kind of let you know what I'm planning to read, what kind of videos are coming, all of that stuff. If you have watched my channel before, you know that I am a TBR reader. I have to make TBRs. I like the lists. I like knowing what I'm going to be picking up next. I don't like having to make decisions, and so I thrive on TBRs. So back in, I think it was March, I ended up making a TBR that was broken into a couple of categories. We had sequels that I wanted to read, some new releases, and then some books that I was reading for vlogs. And so we're going to look back on all of those books. I will let you know now that I read every single book on that list, with the one caveat that one book I am actually in the middle of reading. I am pre-filming this video and I am in the process of reading the final book, but I need to get this video filmed. That's the only book that I haven't read yet, but I am actually currently reading it. So let's just start off with the sequels. I had 5 series that I wanted to continue throughout spring. The first one was Gloam by Lily Mayne. This was the next book in the Monstrous series. I have since read this as well as Moth, which is the book that comes after that. And so I've made good progress on the series. I actually only have 2 full-length books left in the series that are currently released. So I'm actually catching back up, and I'm kind of sad about it because I have really enjoyed binging this series. But I ended up giving Gloam 4 stars, and then Moth I did give 5 stars, which is my favorite book of the series so far. I really enjoyed both of these. I thought they were fantastic. I just think it is such a fun mix of post-apocalyptic and monsters, kind of angsty romances, but not super heavy. I think it's a really good combination. I'm enjoying it a lot. So I did read that one. The next series that I wanted to continue was the Psy Changeling series by Nalini Singh. The next book on my list was Mine to Possess, which I did read. I gave this one 3 stars. I didn't particularly like this one all that much. I feel like 3 stars is probably a little generous, and mostly because I like the narrator for the series and I like Nalini Singh's writing, but I didn't really care for the romance aspect itself. I felt like these two were so hard on each other and didn't give each other any grace in their relationship or any understanding about who this person was at their core and where they were coming from. I didn't understand why they were together pretty much at all. But I do really enjoy the plot of this series, and I do still plan to continue. I think I own 1 more book in this series, so I think I'm going to finish that one and see how I feel, and then decide whether or not I'm going to continue on from there. But I did read it, 3 stars. It was fine. The next one was Enemy Within by Tel Bauer. This was the final book in the Executive Office series, which I had started quite a while ago and just kept putting off this final book. But I did read it. I gave it 5 stars. It was a lot. It was so intense. So much happens in this book. There was a point where I was listening to this book because I listened to this on audio, and I thought I was like almost done with the book because I thought we were getting to a point where things were coming together, and I realized I was like halfway, and I had to pause and like reset myself because I realized I was in for a whole lot more hurt until the ending. But this was so fantastic. This is definitely one of my favorite like action suspense romances, just because the world and plot is done so well and it is plotted so well. I absolutely loved it. I loved all of the characters. I loved all the side characters. I love how many POVs you get as the series continues, and I really need to continue on. I think there is a spin-off of this one that I do need to read. Tel Bauer is just an absolute favorite of mine. Then we had Damon by Jacqueline Osborne, which was the next book in the Sons of the Fallen series. I've read this one as well as Grey. Damon, I think, is my favorite. I gave it like a 4, 4.5, and I really like that one. It was a marriage of convenience. I loved how secretly soft they both were, and watching them open up to each other and get to know each other and then fall in love. I just thought it was fantastic. Grey, unfortunately, was by far my least favorite. I gave that one 3 stars. I think Grey is a great side character, especially for comedic relief. He's just cute and adorable, but as a leading character, he didn't do it for me. This is gonna sound so harsh. I don't understand his use to the brothers. He's like made out to be this like big killer, but like he sleeps for like 2/3 of this book, so I don't know, it was fine. But I have continued with the series and I have 3 books left, making headway on that series as well. And then the last one that was on this series was the Puck Boys series. I read the next book, Irresistible Puck Boys. I gave 5 stars. I love this book. I think that this book is so much fun. It is a friends to lovers romance with these 2 main characters who accidentally get married, and then once it becomes a PR nightmare, they need to pretend to be married and they fall in love. And this book has no brain cells. Those 2 main characters, just nothing's going on, but they are so freaking adorable. And I loved it. I did not continue on after that because I had the idea that I should go back and start at the beginning of the Eden Finley and Saxon James world. And I did. And so I've read the entire Fake Boyfriend series, the entire CU Hockey series, the majority of the Famous series, as well as all of the novellas. So I've read a lot of books. I think I'm up to something ridiculous like 21 Eden Finley Saxon James books for the year. So I did, in fact, complete that one. The next section that I had was some new releases that I was really excited about. First was Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate, which is hands down one of the most disappointing books I've read all year. And I gave this one like 2.5 stars. I was in it for the first, like, I don't know, 3/4. I was into it. It wasn't my favorite by any stretch, but I was on board. This is a massive age gap billionaire romance, which I always have a hard time with billionaire romances anyways, because I don't believe that billionaires should exist in the first place. But I was invested. What started getting me is, one, the heroine is keeping this lie from the main character for the entire book, and I couldn't figure out why. And then when it all comes to light, everyone's really mad about it, and our heroine does that whole like sacrificial, like, oh my god, I'm gonna take myself out of this relationship for the sake of everyone, and I didn't understand why people were mad. And then on top of that, this has the surprise pregnancy trope, and that's kind of like, well, what saves their relationship, and I hated it. I hated it so much. It still makes me angry whenever I think back on the ending of this book. So don't like this one. I don't even know if I'm going to add it to my collection because I really don't like this one. Then I read Venom and Vows by Hadley Renee, which was the 3rd and final book in the Kingdom of the Stars trilogy. I don't remember exactly what the series is called. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was fine. I definitely enjoyed the first 2 books more than this one. I thought it was okay. I liked how it all wrapped up, even though I thought it wrapped up a little bit too easy. I had a good time. Honestly, I don't remember a lot of the plot of this one. It was just kind of forgettable. I do know that there is a spin-off that is coming out later this year. I don't actually know who it follows or anything like that. I do think I will give that one a try since I did enjoy the first 2 books. This one was just okay. And then on that same wavelength, we had Fae Princes by Nikki St. Crow. I gave this one like 2.5, 3 stars. What a bummer of an ending for this series. I read all 3 of these books back to back to back, and it was the most tragic reading little thing right there because they were all such high anticipated reads for me. And they were all bummers. This book, I don't know what happened here. I don't know if it was written by somebody else. I don't know. The first 3 books in the series are so much fun. They are these why choose romances where our heroine, Darling, ends up going to Neverland, and she has a romance with Pan as well as some of the Lost Boys. There are Fae, and there's Hook and pirates. And it's a wild, crazy time. But it is so much fun to read. And this book lost all of that. It had none of it. It didn't have any good steamy scenes in it. It didn't have any wild shenanigans going on. The characters didn't do anything fun or interesting. The majority of this book is Pan walking around moping about how he's losing his powers, and everyone else talking about how concerned they are about Pan walking around and moping. And then the big, like, bad guy for the first 3 books is taken out in like, I don't know, 2 sentences. Like it didn't lead up to anything. It was so anticlimactic. And it was unfortunate. This one is also going to have a spin-off coming that's going to be Hook, Crocodile, Wendy. romance, I think. I might read it. We'll see. Then luckily the last two books in this category were both wins. We had If Only You by Chloe Leese, which I gave 5 stars. This is the youngest siblings romance. It is our heroine who is a soccer player, and she is struggling because everyone still sees her as a child. Her family has always seen her as the youngest sibling, and nobody is grasping the fact that she is a grown adult woman. And she ends up having a romance with one of her brother's teammates, who's like the bad boy of hockey, and he needs somebody to help clean up his image, and she wants his help kind of proving to everyone that she is an adult and needs to be taken seriously. And they have a friends to lovers romance. That was everything. I love how much the hero worshipped the ground that she walked on. Like, he wanted to do right by her so much that he was willing to change like all of his ways just to prove to her that he was worthy of her. And it was so good. It was so good. I love the series a lot. I am sad that we only have one book left in the series because I don't think I will ever be ready to leave the Berkmans. And then lastly, of course, Paladin by Onley James. I just talked about this in my last recent reads video, so I won't dwell too much here. I gave it 5 stars. It's a spin-off of the Necessary Evil series, and at this point, I'm too invested to not give it 5 stars. So that's where I got this one. I loved it, of course. And then the last category was books that I was reading for vlogs. So first was Sweet Vengeance by Viana Oniomo, and I gave this one, originally I gave it 4.5. I have since upped it to 5 stars because this book I cannot get out of my head. Like, whenever I think back to this book, it is so deeply ingrained in me that I had to acknowledge that this was a 5-star book. This was so good. This is a revenge romance between our heroine, who is getting revenge on her abuser, and the demon that she summons to help her get away with it. And not only is this a good for her sort of story, but the demon is also a submissive hero that is helping our heroine get over her trauma and PTSD after the sexual assault, and I loved it. I loved it a lot. I have talked about this book, I feel like, all over, and I'm sorry that I keep talking about it, but not really that sorry, because you should read it. Then I had If She Says Yes by Tasha L. Harrison. I read this as well as its sequel in my Single Moms vlog. I gave the first book 3.5 stars and the second one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I thought that the steamy scenes, for one, fantastic. The communication between these two characters, so good. Absolutely loved that aspect. That's probably my favorite aspect about this, is the way that these two communicated about what they wanted and needed out of their relationship. Perfection. I also loved how the best friend's mom thing ended up working out, how it was addressed in this story. It all felt very realistic, and I really liked how it was handled. This was a really good time. I'm glad I read this, and I can't wait to read more from this author. And then Leviathan Song by Elsie Winters, I gave 5 stars. This was supposed to be for a vlog where I read the books that I didn't choose for my fantasy vlog that I did back in February, March, something like that. And I ended up not filming that vlog. Some stuff went wrong. Some of the books totally failed. I ended up like not having time to do the vlog, and like a bunch of things fell through and it didn't end up happening. But I did read this one and it was 5 stars, and I'm completely obsessed with this series. I've read this one as well as the sequel, Magpies and Mayhem, and I love them. I love them. They're both 5 stars. I love this world. Elsie Winters did such a good job mixing classic fantasy ideas with these really unique twists, and I have loved every second of these. And then the last one is the one that I technically haven't read yet because I am currently reading it for the vlog that I am currently filming, and that is The Quarterback by Tel Bauer. This is going to be for my sequel to my Single Moms vlog, which is my Single Dads vlog, and this will be in there. So I am currently reading this. It will be completed, and if you want to know my reading for this one, you can check out that vlog. Things will be linked in all of the places. So that is everything that I put on my spring TBR. So I'm going to do the same thing for summer, but I'm going to kind of break it up into categories just like this one, where I can kind of give you a little sneak peek of what is coming, what's on my radar, what types of videos you can watch out for, all of that kind of stuff. So Let me know if you read any of these. Let me know what your favorite book of spring was, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.